smoking too, sipping and roasting. Yeah, that's what we do. Set 'em up, knock 'em down, make that cherry glow. Whiskey and cigars, the gentleman's cologne.
Cheers, y'all.
Wow.
That sounds like a party just about to begin.
Something like that. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally
Hi, Mom.
as the world famous Smoking and Toasting.
Yeah, I got my timing back. Last week I messed
last
it
week
all
you
up.
were a little early, but that's all right. It happens. You're
It's
a musician.
I heard
Yeah.
as I get older, this is going to happen more often.
Don't you hate when the guitar player comes in early? No, but even worse when the French horn player comes in early. That's always a disaster, right? Welcome to the show. It's program number 410 of Smoking and Toasting. Doing the math in my head is a little slow, so I'll turn to my co-host.
That is, if you parse it out and you use this old TI calculator that I'm using right now.
Oh, yeah, I like that one.
It's halfway to 500.
That's the one where you can spell hello by upside down,
Yes,
right? And
yes.
but yeah, I remember that calculator. That was and the buttons were so tactile. Remember,
Yes.
there was a
Click.
definite click for each button push.
It was a physical click.
yeah,
It was not haptic feedback.
So it's nice to know we're halfway to 500, and it's nice to have our special guest, the return of the one and only Dominic Sung. Welcome.
Hey.
So nice to have you, man. It's
Appreciate it.
good to have you. Now, I know what you're thinking right away. You're like, well, wait a minute. The Whiskey Social has already passed, and it's not for like another almost a year. And you're right. But see, what you failed to take into account is that when Dominic comes on the show, he brings whiskey. So he's pretty much welcome
bearing
anytime.
gifts.
Yeah. He's pretty much welcome anytime. We do want to get a little bit of a postmortem on how the social went this year. We were there, and we don't remember a great deal about it. So
Well, I remember the first half of it.
okay. Well, that's good to know. Plus, I had Terry. Give me a. Do we have our interview?
Yes, we're going to do
so-
that, and believe in segment 3 because of the length of it. It's a good interview. You might not remember any of it, but it's there.
Graham McTavish. We did the interview at the social.
That was awesome.
And yes, he was a lot of fun and was very gracious. And
a great guy.
I liked him a whole lot. In fact, it almost is enough to make me go back and watch the Lord of the Rings movies again. Which now wait a second. I'm not bagging on those movies. I'm just saying that is an enormous commitment of time. That's all I'm saying. Those things are long.
Yeah,
I coincidentally watched
they
a
are.
movie this weekend,
Yeah.
and it was an older movie. And then I saw his name flash through the
Oh.
headline. I was like, "Whoa! I didn't realize he was in this." But it's action movie Colombiana,
Oh, okay.
Oh,
maybe
so
maybe I'll
yeah.
just watch that.
Nice.
That's a
There you go.
lesser
Yeah.
time
and
commitment.
it was like sort of mindless. And I did not realize he was a key player in there.
and
so.
we'll be like, "Where's Graham?" Kind of like, "Where's Waldo?"
yeah.
But anyway, he has his own spirit, some of which we've tried here on the program
Yes.
recently, and were quite good.
Quite good.
Yeah, quite good. So we'll look forward to that. We'll be trying some spirits of our own. Dominic has brought along some cool-looking bottles there, which I'm sure we'll get to here in short order. We'll also be doing a little beer tasting on today's program. I know
like beer.
I know this has been hard for you to absorb, but we will. From 903 Brewers in Sherman, Texas, we'll be trying their Jelly Donut Gose.
Oh.
Yeah, so we're recording the show quite early this week. So it's still kind of breakfast time, and so I thought a jelly donut would be appropriate.
Not just for breakfast anymore.
That's right. From Glendale, California, and the Paperback Brewing Company, we'll be trying their black IPA called Dollar Store Heroes. We'll look forward to that. And
We haven't had anything from Paperback. have we?
yeah, this is a first, I believe.
Right.
We have had something from these guys before, from San Diego, California, Alesmith Brewing Company.
Alesmith.
We'll be trying their barrel-aged Lost Prophet.
Nice.
It is the chocolate churro edition. Imperial
Alesmith
Stout.
made one of my favorite things. I can't find it anymore, but Old Numbskull.
Oh yeah, I think that was a limited. I don't think that's
It's
around.
not. It wasn't limited. It was always there, but I think that just no one wants to make barley wines anymore.
That's a
It
shame.
makes me very sad.
I know it makes you sad. Well, we'll try to cheer you up with a little chocolate churro edition Imperial Stout.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I have a feeling we'll have you
I
happy.
feel like I could be cheered by
We'll
that.
have you happy by the end of the show. That's what I'm thinking. We'll do our drinking news story, and I have to admit that I screwed up last week. Because since when it gets towards the holidays, we sometimes have to record a number of shows kind of like in a row because of where the holidays land to make sure we've got a show out for our radio affiliates every weekend. And so I will sometimes work ahead with drinking news. And last week's drinking news, while it was a great story, it wasn't the one I intended to read. So my teaser headline last week and the drinking news story did not match at all.
The best part of that is none of us noticed.
Yeah,
Probably because we were drinking.
that's why we do drinking news later in the show, right? But today I will bring you the correct drinking news for this repeated teaser headline, which is Sir Mix-a-Lot may have an anaconda, but this guy has a python.
Oh boy.
And we'll have a drinking fact for you as well, another very popular portion of the show.
Pythons.
Our drinking fact headline is...
Nope.
Gosh darn it, Clyde. That was some really good vodka. All right, we'll get to that on the program as well. Tell you about some cigars to watch for, and our theme for today's show. I've given the show this title, so we can't skip it. The best and worst celebrity booze. I have a list,
I have opinions.
and we'll see if we can. We'll see how well. We agree or disagree with the list. So I thought that'd be fun to do while you were here, Dom. So
Let's do it.
And then of course the big wrinkle in the celebrity booze area is that Conor McGregor has been kicked out of proper number 12, which we talked about on last
That's
week's
like
show.
Lindsey Buckingham getting kicked out of Fleetwood Mac. Like,
Yeah, but
how
that's-
bad do you have to? How much of a
That's
jerk do you have to be?
well, I don't know. Lindsey Buckingham's been kicked out of Fleetwood Mac like 3 times. So I'll just go ahead and say it. That's what happens when you sleep with Stevie Nicks. I'm just going to throw that out there. I got fired from a radio station a couple times. Just
Because
saying.
of Stevie Nicks?
Just say, I'm not saying there's a correlation. You can draw that in your own minds. I'll let you do that. So let's go ahead and break out the drinking fact, shall we?
Oh, all right. It's time for
I know I didn't prepare you.
going-
I
we're going-
apologize.
We're going there.
We got a lot to do
We're
on the
ready.
show
We're
today.
hitting the ground running.
We're ready. Let's go already.
Here's the thing: when we got to record these many shows, we have doubled our normal drinking schedule.
That's right.
Right.
We've been
Lots to
drinking
do.
a lot.
Lots to do. And now it's time for another smoking and toasting drinking fact.
There it is.
I am rapidly running out of drinking facts, so I'm just going to start recycling old ones so we can still hear that fanfare. So,
Well, you don't say what it has to be. You could just be like, beer is made out of hops. And that's a fact.
Today's drinking fact: back in 2018, the world's most expensive bottle of vodka, worth over $1.2 million.
How is a great neutral spirit worth 1.2 million?
The world's most expensive bottle of vodka, worth over $1.2 million, was stolen and found empty on a building site.
Oh.
Isn't that great?
Wow.
Let me just do that one more time, and then we'll follow it with the fanfare.
Yeah.
Back in 2018, the world's most expensive bottle of vodka, worth over $1.2 million, was stolen and found empty on a building site.
You know what?
I showed them.
$1.2 million.
If you're going to break rules,
That's right.
that's the way to do it right there.
That's absolutely right. Oh, and speaking of rules and rulers and heads of state, I am now officially appealing to the president, every state's governor, the head of the United Nations, parliaments in the UK and all across Europe.
It's a lot of governments.
We need to declare an international state of emergency. because an unprecedented spike in Guinness sales in recent weeks has left pub owners fearing that they will run out in the run-up to Christmas.
Run out of Guinness?
Come on.
Run
Wow.
out of Guinness.
Can you imagine if that happens at like a pub in Ireland?
That would be the
There's a cut scene right there where everyth's in chaos.
This is
And
why I'm
Cruz is
appealing.
standing in front
It
going, nothing to see
It
here.
would be like L.A. if they won a championship.
This is or Philadelphia.
Or
This
Philly,
is
yeah.
this is why I'm appealing to all of the major world leaders, because that would in fact be the beginning of World War III.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
a pub in Ireland
Oh.
ran out of Guinness,
Oh, boy.
it's over. You can just kiss your booties goodbye, my
Yeah,
friends.
I mean, life is. I
By
mean,
the way-
would it even be worth living anymore?
By the way, Diageo, the drinks giant which owns Guinness, says, "Don't worry, there's plenty of Guinness. You won't run out." But still, people
Yeah.
are, you know how
Yeah.
it is. People got to grab a hold of a story these days and run with it.
Yeah,
So,
and you know,
Man,
if they do something, start going and buying it all up real quick because they're afraid.
that's right.
I wonder if this is just a ploy by.
Quick, everybody buy toilet paper.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
I mean, it makes just as much sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's do the mystery beverage here, or the beverage mystery, or as we like to call it here on the program, the beverage of mystery. There was an extra "the" in there.
Yeah,
Was that
there
me?
was.
The bomb.
Okay. Today's beverage mystery, I brought this in. Beverage mystery is where
Ooh.
one of us will bring in a beverage of some sort. Sometimes it's a cider or a seltzer or a beer, or sometimes something even different than
It
that.
smells like somebody mixed a beer with an energy drink.
Only person who knows what this is the person what brung it, and that would be me today. So, gentlemen, start
What am I
your...
smelling in there?
The
I
nose
smell
isn't.
some like apple.
Yeah, it isn't strong, but it's got a fruity type.
Yeah, it's definitely got a fruity, but it's got kind of like that energy drink fruity, like that
Yeah.
kind of chemically fruity.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Have you tasted yet? What do you think?
Oh. Wow. When you really let it sit there, it tastes like Halls or Vicks. I don't know if it's just because I drank the fruity pebbles right between them, but
It could, yeah, it could have been.
Yeah.
Dom, what do you think of our beverage of mystery today?
I get the fruitiness on the nose, and then there's some bitterness on sort of the end of
Yeah,
it, but then
there's-
like the fruitiness comes back.
Okay.
It's a beer,
Yeah.
and it's got an incredibly thin mouthfeel.
Yeah,
Like,
but
it's,
it lasts a long.
it's bizarrely thin.
Yeah.
Do you have a question for me?
Well, I get kind of fruity stuff up front, and then there's nothing in the middle of the palate whatsoever.
Right.
The real question is that a beverage of mystery in your pocket, or are you just happy to see us?
Well, I can see why you may be confused about which of those two it is, because
still
of the
think
size of the beverage of mystery. So I can see why this would be confusing to you. And many people have been confused by these type of things. But ladies and gentlemen, I present today's beverage of mystery, the Iron Maiden Trooper Premium British Beer.
Wow.
And there it is.
charged with flavor.
Now, and so the reason I wanted to do this as a beverage of mystery is because I thought, we might be inclined to grade it gentler. If
Is that
we
Eddie on
didn't-
the front?
If we knew, yes, if we knew it was Iron Maiden.
Yay, that's awesome.
But does what do you think about this?
This is one that I remember when it came out and I tried it and I thought, okay, it's drinkable, and I've never bought it since.
Mm-hmm.
And this is exactly why. But
Yeah.
again, I would just like to say,
It's got a finish that I'm not crazy about. Other than that, I kind of like it, but there's something in the
it's
finish
really,
that
really, the mouth feels so thin. You know what the finish is? The finish is kind of an out of place. It's almost like a ESB kind of finish.
yeah, except not quite as good.
Except for, yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break. We will be back. We got a lot to do on today's program, including bringing you our interview with Graham McTavish, and we've got lots of whiskey to taste too. So we'll be right back at Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, our program all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. If you have not completed your holiday shopping yet, we have a holiday gift idea for you that I will pass along a little bit later in the show. But first, it's that time in the program when I like to ask Ian if he smoked anything interesting lately.
Well, yes, I did. I got home a little late last night. I had a rehearsal out in Montgomery, north of Houston. Takes a little while to get home. So when I got home, I went outside and, I went in the humidor first and found the diesel.
Now, when you say you went into your humidor,
Is a walk-in?
Do you have a walk-in at your house?
That would be nice.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
I was going to say.
You can say
No,
yes.
it's a little more like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where
Yeah.
you go kind of like crawl into it.
Yeah, and then
It's
you
much
wind up
smaller
in
than that.
Narnia with lots of cigars.
But I ended up pulling out of there a diesel Worthy Fool.
Oh, I don't think I've had that.
It's well, let me tell you about it. It was a Perfecto 5x58. It's a beautiful cigar. Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper, Nicaraguan Habano binder, Nicaraguan Habano filler. The appearance on this espresso brown wrapper, toothy and oily with few prominent veins, blue and gold diesel band, and Worthy Fool footer. Pre-light sniff on this earth, leather, gritty, sweet brownie batter. The pre-light draw, I used a V-cut. It had a very tight draw due to the fact that it's a Perfecto because it comes down to a little point at the end.
Right, so a V-cut's not exactly the...
Well, I wasn't worried about it because, like I said, it's going to open up. Like, as soon as the end is lit, it's going to open up. So, which it did, of course. But on the pre-light draw, I got leather on the lips from that wrapper. I got sweet tea. I got dark fruit and some spicy wood notes in there. I used... on the initial light, I lit it. The draw opened up to a light Nicaraguan pepper breeze. Not a pepper blast like I was expecting. Big pepper without a big spicy bite. Sweet, dark fruit, tangy leather, and rich earth. Retrohale is brownie batter with pepper. First third of the cigar went down sweet and peppery. The notes are playing off each other, leaving a spicy tingle on the tongue and a sweet and salty finish. Hints of toast, brownie, dates, and leather weave throughout with a creamy, sweet, yet spicy finish. Retrohale's gritty, sweet brownie batter and spicy pepper. Solid ash, good burn. Proposed pairing. I did the whiskey sniff because I was at my house. So I went inside, and guess what? OGD, Old Granddad Bonded, won the whiskey sniff. It was perfect.
You got with OGD?
Nothing wrong with OGD, right? The next third of this, the second third of this full in body, it comes off more sweet and not overly peppery. Bourbon brings out more earthy notes with some mineral aftertaste and a kiss of white pepper along the outside of the tongue. Dark fruit and leather remains consistent. Retrohale is... My cigar went out. So I relit it. No penalty. Retrohale is gritty brownie batter, sweet and spicy white pepper, solid ash, good burn. By the way, I read that exactly like I wrote it.
Yeah.
It was a little late last night. Spices. Sometimes I just write out my thoughts.
I like it.
Spices ramp up. Last third, the spices ramp up on a bed of dark, fruity notes and earth. Tangy leather notes are more prominent. Band is somewhat difficult to remove. Layers of chocolate and pepper gain in intensity. Cigar brings out the vanilla and mineral water notes in the bourbon. Retro in the bourbon because it's Retrohale's intensely sweet and spicy, solid ash, good burn, price to quality. This cigar comes in at $10. I'm giving it a solid 6. It was awesome.
Wow.
I enjoyed it.
So it's a diesel Worthy Fool.
Worthy Fool, and it's beautiful. It's a Perfecto, and it just smokes so well.
That's awesome.
Except for it went out, but then it relit and no penalty.
As long as there's no penalty, I don't
No
have
penalty.
the biggest problem with cigars going out.
Right.
It's just like, I don't mind tending a cigar a little bit if it's burning a little funky, as long as it doesn't mean that now the cigar is going to, I have to tend it so much that it's going to be harsh from all of that and stuff. So, all right, I don't think we have time to get to my review in this segment, so we'll get to it coming up. But I wanted to mention what I decided to do with mine this week. And we've talked a lot on this show before about how amazing it is that cigar blenders, they'll blend for a particular taste and flavor for a cigar. And then the next year's crop comes in, and the tobaccos are different. Even if they're sourced from the same place, they're different, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not so much like, it's like the beverage industry in a way, because if you're blending for a particular thing, you've always got to find what balance is going to make that blend and make it taste like what the consumer expects. Now, if it's a single barrel or something, that's a totally different thing. But
that's the thing about a single barrel,
Right.
is that it
Is
is
the
going to be a
uniqueness,
little different.
right.
You celebrate the difference.
So how do cigar makers who come up with an amazing blend, comes out on the market and it's a huge success, how do they continue to replicate that flavor through the years? And does the quality stay
It's
consistent?
strange alien voodoo.
Right. So I'm going to go back to a cigar that I reviewed on the show here about 5 years ago from one of our favorite cigar makers and tell you how the current version stacks up.
Oh, cool.
So that'll be coming up in the next segment. Also, our interview with Graham McTavish, and he'll talk about his spirits and a little bit about. He talked about a lot of things. I love that guy. We'll bring you that coming up next. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. I feel like we robbed the listeners a little bit because usually we include the sound effect of the opening of the can as a part of the show. And we actually did it during the break because we have to make room for the McTavish interview. So we already have poured the Gose, and this is from
Oh, my gosh.
903
Wow.
Brewers
The nose on
in
this.
Sherman,
Yeah.
Texas. It's a jelly donut Gose.
I mean, that's not wrong.
Outrageous.
Wow.
It really does smell like
That's
a jelly
amazing.
donut. If it tastes this way, I'm going to be like,
This has to be one of my favorite Goses.
wow.
Immediately.
This is
I have
good.
to say, I'm pretty sure there are less calories in this jelly donut Gose than there are in a jelly donut. So I may have found
Start your day this way.
It's not just for
All
breakfast
right,
anymore.
So Dominic's making the face. He already said that this is not his favorite style of beer.
Gose,
And
right.
I was gonna say you might change my mind, right? But
Yeah, but we didn't.
This is probably better than any other that I've had. I'll give it
Okay,
that.
well,
So,
all right,
there you go.
there you go.
There
All
you
right.
You know, my wife does not like sour beers at all.
Yeah.
Either. If I put a sour beer in a house, it's perfectly safe.
But Goses to me are more tart than sour.
Well, it's still in that neighborhood. You know.
All right. So let me just say this. If the phrase jelly donut Gose sounds good to you, you will love this.
It's
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's about as good of a
It smells
of
amazing,
a thing
too.
as I could do. Speaking of things that we loved spending some time at the Whiskey Social this year with Graham McTavish, who has his own line of spirits, and he was a super interesting guy. Not all actors, to be honest, are that interesting. But he is. Super interesting guy. I've interviewed a lot of actors in my day. He was one of my favorites. Here's the interview we did with him where we talk about his spirits and talk about just his career in general. Ladies and gentlemen, recorded live at the Whiskey Social, Mr. Graham McTavish. On location at the Whiskey Social, and boy, are we excited because Graham McTavish is here, and we are, we're excited about like being in the presence of like a great actor, but we're more excited, I think, about
Bourbon.
yeah, we're excited about
Drinking.
the fact that this guy is like seriously into the spirits business. So, first of all, welcome.
Thank
for
you.
being
Thanks for having me.
here. And we're really honored to be on with you. And you know, we've had some actors on the show. We've had some comedians, but I don't know if we've had anyone who's been like a cultural touch point. I mean, this guy just isn't on movies and TV shows. He's on ones that are like ingrained in the culture. Like
Yeah.
how, like when you get, you know, when you either audition or get selected for these things, did you have any idea that either of these was going to become such a huge part of movie and television culture?
Are you referring to Outlander
Sure,
and The Hobbit?
sure, yeah.
Well, The Hobbit, yeah, we knew because of Lord of the Rings,
And how
the
big that
whole,
was.
the whole
Yeah.
Tolkien obsession, and I knew about it. So I knew that was going to be a big one. But Outlander, I'd never read the books.
Yeah.
I did never heard of the books.
Uh,
We all read the first book before we started. But when you're making any kind of TV thing, or even a play or a movie, you live in a bit of a bubble. So you're not really aware of how it's going to be perceived from the outside.
how the general public will take.
I mean, I've been in things that I won't name, that while you're in them, you think, this is the best thing ever. They're going to love this. This is kind of stupid. But no, just a disaster.
It's sometimes it
A
happens.
disaster. Absolute disaster. But with Outlander,
cut and edited room was brutal.
yeah, I mean, with Outlander, what we had going for us from the get-go was we had a lovely group of people. and we all got on. And that's hugely important. When the cast get on, it translates very much onto the screen. I think, I'm a pretty good judge of when people don't get on with each other when they're acting together.
Can you tell by watching a movie or a show that you didn't have any insight into that?
And
can't tell from the product?
And the opposite, when people have genuinely enjoyed working together, it just gives us a special extra that you can't manufacture.
Right. And you then wind up on another show or another movie and it's not like that and you're just like, oh man.
I mean, I've got to be honest, I've been very lucky. I've been very, very lucky. I've had a handful of experiences in 40 years where I've not really just enjoyed the entire thing. I've loved 99% of the things I've been involved in.
That's awesome.
Plays, TV, film, video games, whatever it is.
So you've obviously had this success in that run. And then you decide to get into spirits. First of all, what made you make that decision? And secondly, did you have any trepidation? Because the world of celebrity spirits is... I'm not saying there's not any good ones. There are some really good ones. But there are also some that are just really more vanity projects than
I mean, the rule that it's not a rule, but the way that I've conducted myself generally in my life is with the understanding that ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is truly bliss. I think actually Orson Welles talked about it when they were asking him about directing movies. And he said, I didn't know anything about directing movies. And he's directed one of the greatest films ever made. But in that ignorance, I had it with acting. I didn't know anything about acting when I went into it. I didn't go to drama school. I'd done writing, but when I went into writing books with Sam about our experiences in Scotland, all of these things I just threw myself into, and the bourbon is the same. I got approached by Connor to come in on this. We knew each other a little bit. I loved bourbon. I'd been a closet bourbon lover for about 20 years. And he it's a strange thing. It's as if he gave me permission to admit that I loved bourbon. And then I went and we discovered, the different expressions that we were interested in, and did the blends and settled on the War Chief. But I had no conception of what it really entails. And I have nothing but respect for people who run businesses. Even, getting a cup of coffee in the morning. If I get a cup of coffee, I'm very appreciative of how much effort has gone in to get that cup of coffee. Because I have really no idea at all. 300
hands, they say. That's
sure, I can believe it. Yeah, right. And with bourbon, it's the same. I mean, Connor and Ivy, and Caleb and Kale, our team, are pounding the streets all the time. They're actually on the road, shaking people's hands, building relationships, and I just think that's great old-fashioned salesmanship.
Now, as someone from Scotland, where some of the finest whiskeys known to man have originated, is there a bit of a looking down the nose at bourbon?
Yeah. Well, before I tried bourbon, which was 20 years ago, thanks to a friend of mine, American actor called Nolan North, who was a great bourbon lover. I was in his house, we had dinner, and he said, do you want to have a bourbon after dinner? And I had really had that arrogant, condescending Scottish assumption that bourbon was just American Scotch. It was kind of, they can't it's Southern. And I tried it, and it was a real revelation, truly. And from that moment on, I just found myself more and more reaching for the bourbon instead of the Scotch.
Interesting.
And that's not to say that I don't love Scotch.
I was going to say, someone that loves both.
Oh yeah, no, I do.
I totally get that.
I do. But, the thing that I every day always go back to is a bourbon. And it kind of crept up on me.
My journey was a little bit the same. Like, I got into Scotch. I really enjoyed nuanced, delicate, and even into peated scotches and some of those things. But as I got more into bourbon, it's kind of the same thing where I just found myself reaching more for bourbon.
Yeah. And I stopped apologizing for it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel naughty?
Well, I mean, you feel a bit of a. you feel, if you're from Scotland, you feel a bit of a heretic.
Right? Well, sure, because that's like, there's a lot of pride
Oh, of course.
in Scottish whiskey.
But I also,
Absolutely.
But I also take, comfort in the knowledge that the bourbon, along with the Irish coming over and the Scots and English people that were creating spirits here when they first arrived, they were looking for what they could source to make liquor.
Right.
And with the movement west from the East Coast, where they found the corn and started to use the corn to distill, I love that kind of that legacy, that connection with Scotland.
Yeah.
From the heritage, but bringing something new and creating something unique.
And I love that thing that seems to be inherent in humankind, which is you discover something new, a new plant, a new crop, a new something, and you're like, we could make alcohol out of this. We could make liquor out of this, and it might be delicious.
Yes.
And that's that spirit of discovery and the thing that has driven. I mean, I'm sure it's what drove the ancient Scottish distilleries making Scotch. That had to be the same thing that, in a sort of a different way, drove the American bourbon makers.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there are many parallels, and that's why I don't feel quite as bad.
What is your favorite spirit in your line?
Oh, in our portfolio?
Yes, in your portfolio.
It's not even favorite channel.
I like the
I'm really.
You're not supposed to have a favorite child, but you know you do.
It's true.
We've got a new one, which is our Legacy series, which is actually named for my children, Hope and Honor. That's their names. And I'm really interested in that. I really enjoy it. I guess because it's new, and it's also, I think, delicious. It's oh, thanks. Yeah, it's aged in Scotch whiskey barrels, peated, a little bit peated, not crazy, but it's there. You can taste it.
That really speaks to me, by the way. I'm not the world's hugest fan of the full-on blood of Owen.
I
do like a little bit of it, I totally get that.
Yeah.
You catch me in the right mood, I'm fine with like.
It depends, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It depends.
But it is the right mood. It's like it's a certain mood.
But I love just a little bit of that to add just some nuance.
Yeah.
I really love
And
it.
so that's kind of, I would say probably that's kind of my favorite because it's new and I'm excited about it and I'm really happy with it too.
Thank you for spending a few minutes with us, and thank you for getting into the spirits business because I love someone with the sense of the history of Scotch and Scottish whiskey getting into the bourbon and
well, I love the history of bourbon as well, so
Yeah.
it's a great thing for me.
Thanks for spending a few minutes with us.
Yes.
Before we wrap up, anything on the acting front that is coming up? Can you tell us about this? Exciting?
Okay, so there's a film that I did in Montana about a year and a half ago called Somewhere in Montana. I play a rancher in that Northern Bay. That's coming out in January in theaters. In June, the series of Spartacus, the sort of the sequel to the previous Spartacus series, that we've just wrapped on that in New Zealand. We've been filming that for 6 months. That comes out in June, and I'm very excited about that. If you like Roman history, if you like gladiators, if you like watching people fight, and a bit of everything else, you're gonna love it.
And obviously, you spent some time filming in Scotland. In New Zealand.
Oh yeah.
I've never been. Is New Zealand as cool as I think it is?
Oh, it is beautiful.
Yeah,
it's stunning. It's pristine. There are parts of New Zealand that are primordial. You expect like a T-Rex to emerge.
I love that.
It's true. It's absolutely true. And it's actually ironically the youngest part of the planet. It emerged from the ocean long after everything else. So it has a unique ecology So there are no snakes. No, there are no snakes. They don't even have snakes in zoos. There are no predators.
Wow.
The only mammal in New Zealand that was indigenous was a bat. That was it. Everything else, flightless birds.
And it's home to Neil Finn, one of my favorite.
Neil Finn, great guy.
Yeah, it's a great song.
Yeah, he wrote a song. He wrote the song for the first Hobbit movie.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah. Love him. I'm a big fan. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with
My
us.
pleasure.
We're very excited about your bourbons.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to tasting even more of them, and we will. And looking forward to seeing you on the screen again.
Thanks very much.
And as we say at the end of Smoking and Toasting,
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.
Kind of in Texas.
Yeah, I like it.
Incredible guy. I love him. Graham McTavish, try his spirits. We have since we did the interview, and the rye is spectacular.
Absolutely.
Speaking of rye, we got some rye on hand. We're going to be getting to that in the next segment. So, Dom, I'll let you tell us about that. Plus, I'll give you my cigar review, how the My Father Grand Oferta, whether it succeeds or fails a few years later.
So groovy.
Y'all have too much fun with this song.
What I like about this song is it's all, we're done with our portion of it before the guitar even comes in, which in this case I think is probably a good thing. Yeah, so.
You're a bad man. That's one of my old bands. That's why he's giving me. That's why he's giving me trouble about it.
Singer was great in that band, don't you think? It's awesome.
Mr. Tim McGlashan.
The late Tim McGlashan.
Something else.
He was. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. I'm going to get to my discussion of a hand-rolled cigar, but as I do, Dom, you're going to pour us some whiskey. What's the first one we're tasting
The first
today?
one we're going to go into is from High West Distillery, their annual release of a Midwinter Night's Dram.
Oh, that sounds very literary.
Yeah, but it's rye whiskey finished in port barrels, and I think it's just a really great expression of a nice winter dram.
Awesome. Well, if you don't
Shocking.
mind, you can do the opening and pouring while I tell you about the cigar that I had. That was very good.
Wow.
Actually.
That was impressive.
Well,
You
I
must
tell you
have
about
gone
the,
to Ian Sound Effects Academy.
it's not easy to graduate from the Ian Sound Effects Academy. I'll tell you.
I mean,
you
just
gotta have a fart sound effect that
just
is
the
like
class.
10 out of 10.
Just the class on opening beers, and there's no beer left behind, so the class just gets crazier.
Yeah, I like this idea. Today I'm going to go back to a cigar that I first smoked and talked about here on the show about 5 years ago to see how well the blend has held up over the years. It is the My Father La Gran Oferta in a 6x50 Toro size. Now, as we know, La Gran Oferta is Spanish for the Gran Oferta.
Yes.
Actually, it means the great offer. That's what it translates to. Now that I have Google Translate, I can figure these things out.
Google Translate. Yeah.
Didn't used
I
to
mean,
be.
your first translation was not wrong.
Wouldn't it be funny, though, if you entered La Gran Oferta into Google Translate and it said the Gran Oferta? The La Gran Oferta uses an Ecuadorian Habano Rosado wrapper covering Nicaraguan tobaccos in the binder and filler. And the Garcias at My Father Cigars first released this baby in 2018. So, how is the blend doing today? Well, I'm not sure that the appearance has held up all that well. You'll see the photo here. I don't remember this or any other My Father blend being this rugged or rustic looking. Now, again, this doesn't offend me, but plenty of visible veins and an overall bumpy wrap relief. I don't really care so much about how a cigar looks as opposed to how it tastes.
The term bumpy doesn't always sound very sexy.
But I really want to say that this cigar used to be a bit more beautiful back in the day. Yeah. But for that matter, you could say that about me as well. So yeah. I used a V-cut and I started to check the cigar out, and I can tell you that the pre-light notes were as good as any I have observed. As good as an A.J. Fernandez Bella Artez Maduro, which is one of my favorite cigars for the pre-light notes. I just love it. This cigar makes me really want to smoke it just from the notes I get from the pre-light sniff and the cold draw. Earth and chocolate richness beckon you from beyond the tobacco fields.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nicely done.
Cigar was pretty tightly packed, but there were no problems with the draw, even at the very beginning. I got some pepper, but as seems to be the trend with cigars I'm reviewing lately, not enough to qualify as a Nicaraguan pepper blast.
We haven't had one of those in a while.
We haven't, and that's just so interesting because we were getting them like every week there for a while. I did pick up notes of earth and chocolate like I expected, along with a hint of malt, pepper, and graham crackers on the finish. Nothing earth-shattering, but right inside my wheelhouse, which was good. Right around the beginning of the second third, where I had to remove that first band, a piece of the bumpy wrapper didn't want to burn quite right. Not surprising given the look of this particular wrapper leaf, and you can see it here, but a quick touch-up with my lighter put it back on the path. Second third gave me notes of toasted almonds and more earthiness. The pepper continued but never became too dominant. The chocolate faded a bit but was still present. Now, by the final third, the pepper did ramp up, and to be honest, so did a number of the other notes. The chocolate presented more like cocoa powder, and it kind of weaved in and out of the flavor blend. The overall strength bumped up from medium to almost full-bodied in the final third. The burn wasn't razor straight, but didn't seem to give me any more trouble. I liked the flavor, but I was not blown away by the My Father La Gran Oferta. I took a look back at my notes from when I reviewed this before on the show, and it looked like I was a little more impressed with the 2019 version of the cigar than I was with this one. Now, I'm not saying it wasn't good.
I mean, I might have been more impressed with the 2019 version of Cruise as well.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I'm not saying that this cigar wasn't good. I really did enjoy it. At today's prices, the Toro size of the La Gran Oferta is $9 to $10, and it was essentially worth it. If anything, it may suffer a little bit from my overall impression of any cigar in the My Father line, because that's a pretty high bar as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I guess I really do expect My Father cigars to knock my socks off. And maybe that's not exactly fair. The La Gran Oferta was good, though I can't say it held up as well compared to 5 years ago. I will still say price to quality, I will still give it a 5. But for the record, my socks are still on. And there you go. That's
I wonder how much of that is are the blends change, and how much of that is our palates change as well.
You know, I feel like, and so I'm going to do a review on this this cigar in a subsequent week. But I recently got like a handful of the Oliva Master Blend 3.
I love that cigar.
Yes, I do too, but I haven't smoked one in a long time.
Especially in a Churchill.
And the first thing I can tell you is that it's not nearly as pretty as it used to be. Much like this Gran Oferta, very rustic looking, almost looks like what you would, one of the cigars you would buy online for a discount price.
You
know
think
what
the
I mean?
crops could have been different? The weather, something like that could have changed it?
I think that there's only so much top shelf tobacco out there at the different places, and I think that the blenders will try to, if they can achieve something close to what the original flavor was of something that came out 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I think they may apportion that top shelf tobacco to the newer, more exciting blends. But
this is the most interesting finish on a rye.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We've only got a minute left to talk about this. So a midwinter night's dream. Dom, tell us what we should expect here.
I mean, it's got all the baking spices and dried fruit, and that kind of comes from the hybrid of both the blended rye and the port finish. So it's great for sitting around a fire pit, hanging out, smoking a cigar.
It actually perfectly kind of feels like a winter.
I was going to joke and say I would drink this floating down the river.
Can do that too.
Which, by the way, I would.
Mm-hmm.
But it really does have that kind of winter's kind of spice kind of thing.
All right, we'll talk more about this in the second hour of the show. We still have drinking news. We still have celebrity spirits, and we have more whiskeys to taste. And we got to find out what Dom feels a little bit more about what you feel about this one before we get too far away from it. So all of that coming up in hour 2. It's Smoking and Toasting. We'll be right back. I love that sound.
Pretty good, isn't it?
It really is. It's one of the most identifiable and to me, it's kind of like the ringing of the Pavlovian dinner bell,
Yes.
to the dog. That's what that sound is like to me. So while Ian is pouring our next beer, let me mention, and we're going to go back and talk some more about this whiskey as well. But let me just mention that I have found what I'm going to ask my wife for to get for me for Christmas, and I thought I had found it earlier when I found out that Donald Trump is releasing a fragrance. Trump the cologne.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. I'm not making this up. It's a real thing. And I thought, well, no matter what your politics are, who wouldn't want to smell like Donald Trump? So that was going to be my ask for. But now I've replaced it with something new that I'm asking my wife for Christmas, because Miller High Life
Yes.
is releasing Dive Bar Fume. It is
Dive bar.
cologne
Wow.
perfume that smells like a dive bar.
Wow. Dive bar fume. That's what.
Yeah.
That just
I mean,
doesn't sound
this
like
seems
something you
pretty
want to
easy.
smell like.
Yeah.
This seems pretty easy. What you got to do is you got to take a macro brew, okay?
Yep.
You pour some on your carpet, and you leave just enough in the can to put a couple cigarettes out in,
Right. And you let that sit
and you
there.
let it sit overnight.
But I'm not kidding. This is actually a thing. Miller High Life Dive Bar Fume.
I want to see the Johnny Depp commercial on that one.
Wouldn't that be
Dive bar
great?
fume.
Yeah.
It smells like pure gasoline.
Yeah.
It's
just
probably more
dressed-
like the Shane Gillis commercial that's a parody of him being in it. Have you
Right.
seen that
Yes. But now at least we know what Miller High Life is doing with those stale and expired Miller High Life beers. They're like, wait, guys, don't throw that out. I got an idea.
Miller has given up entirely on even selling their beer, right?
Right. Oh, yeah,
They're
absolutely.
like, our beer's gonna sell, but we're gonna make the packaging cool. Here's a Vortex bottle, right? Because that fluting in the inch and a half neck really makes it go down.
And
much,
apparently,
much smoother when it's ice cold. And
apparently,
now they're like, now we're just gonna make perfume.
yeah. Apparently, if you wear this perfume, you become incredibly attractive to unemployed guys who get to the bar around 3 p.m.
I was gonna say it doesn't work till 2 a.m.
Yeah, that's right. You've heard of beer goggle, so this short circuits that automatically.
Certainly the champagne
Yeah,
of
that's right.
perfumes.
Champagne of perfumes. I like that. I'm just really enjoying this Midwinter Nights dram. And I want to
finish on this.
want to go back
So
and talk
good.
about who is this from again?
It's from High West Distillery out of Utah. It's an annual release, and it's sort of, I think where it falls for me and for a number of people I know is that it's just sort of the way you sort of kick off winter, right? You have this, and you're like, it's winter time.
It feels like that.
This-
I mean, you talked about sitting around a campfire. That's totally what
This
this makes
also
me
has a very Scotch-like complexity to it.
Right. Now, it's not, I mentioned campfire. This is not like an Oktoberfest. Like, it doesn't have autumn spices in it. It's not like that. It's just more what it makes you think. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it has the complexity like you'd get in a you'd more expect more in a Scotch, but it's also bolder
Yeah.
in a lot of ways too. Like it
is
so
pretty
bold
bold.
right up front, and in the middle you get this real punch of that port cast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the finish lets out, it's such a bizarre mix.
Well,
of
the spice of the rye, for
Yep,
sure.
you
spice
still
is
get the
of
rye
pork
in
is
there.
so
Yeah.
good, so interesting.
Tom, is this something that's relatively easy to find, or is it a little
It's allocated, but
Okay.
it's an annual release, so it sort of comes out around this time every year.
around this time? Okay.
and
Good enough.
In other words, look for it and see if you get lucky.
yeah, and sometimes it's on the shelf occasionally in certain stores, but in other cases they kind of hold it back when they
For,
allocate
I
for
mean,
the
there's-
special customers
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
yeah.
There's almost hidden in there in the retro hill. There's almost a peanut brittle or a chocolate bark kind of thing going on. There's so many things
Like my
happening. in
wife's
this.
dark chocolate almond bark.
Sounds
Yes,
delicious.
it's a thing. I see your expression, and I'll have to bring you some because
Yeah,
it's
you will.
amazing. Dude, I'm talking amazing. What is a bottle?
She makes a mean snickerdoodle too.
Yes, she does. What is a bottle like this retail for? Would you say?
I'm told that the retail has gone up for this year, and I think it's like $160 this year.
Okay, so this is not an inexpensive.
Yeah, it used to be
whiskey
right
rate.
around $100. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
So,
But I wouldn't be surprised if it's gone up because a lot,
Yes, but
particularly if there's demand
just
like
like
that.
just like the $100 bill is the new 20, $200 is the new 100.
$200 is the new.
I mean, this is kind of the way economics works.
I
Right?
got you. Yeah, and dive bar fume is the new Givenchy.
How much is that going to cost?
You know what? Let me see. By the way, it sold out almost immediately.
I mean, I've spilled whiskey
when they
on
released
myself.
it in 2003. So I didn't tell you. It contains cedar wood and patchouli.
Oh,
So every spritz takes you back to that well-loved bar top.
that
Tobacco
takes
and
me
leather.
back to the last concert cafe.
Yeah.
love that place.
Champaca blossom and sea salt. So $60 a bottle
Oh, they're serious.
for the dive bar.
Wow,
fume.
they're
Yeah.
serious.
Dive bar.
And
food.
and by the way, you know what $60 will get you at a dive bar? An entire evening.
A lot.
yeah.
You know, if
Yeah,
it's
at a
really a
proper
good
dive.
proper dive bar,
A lot of
absolutely.
Miller High Lifes.
Yeah,
At
yeah.
a proper dive.
Although I will say there has been a trend over the past 5-10 years for well-funded bars that are not dive bars to try to look and act like dive bars except charge you non-dive bar prices.
yes.
It doesn't work.
No.
It just means you're an
No.
expensive bar with crappy decor. That's all it means. That's all it means.
Like a dive bar has decor that was put up the day they opened,
Yes.
and that's it.
And yeah.
So Ian,
And maybe some stuff stapled
Right.
on top of it.
and maybe some stuff that got thrown against the wall and never slid down. Ian, you poured something that is actually a bit unusual. It's a black IPA.
It's called Fighting Crime on a Budget Dollar Store Heroes Black India Pale Ale.
Yeah, and so you might want to. I know we'll have some B-roll to show of this. We might want to show that can. I thought it was a pretty awesome looking can. So
Oh,
It
there you
is.
go.
It
Wow.
has,
Wow.
it
Dollar
has
Store
our
Heroes.
heroes on the front. This is Spooky Pete.
Mhm.
And then you have over here, you have DJ Rat Bat. And then moving
That's gonna
along
be
the
my
can,
DJ
you have
name, DJ
Mr.
Rat Bat.
Buzz.
Mr. Buzz. Yeah.
That was seemed very plain at first, but then it's on a beer can.
Yeah,
It's
right.
called Mr. Buzz.
I have to say though, the superheroes in the bee costume are always the lamest of the Justice League or whatever group they happen to be in. You're in a bee costume,
but
dude.
never as lame as Aquaman.
Yeah. Oh, come
I
on.
like how the
Aquaman's
movie,
good.
I like how
to
the
the
movie
fish.
makes Aquaman
Try
awesome.
to make him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But come on, remember the cartoons?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Terrible.
You could talk to the
Aquaman
fish.
was the worst.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're gonna put him under Wonder Twins.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Superman, you take on the giant monster. Batman, you figure out how to defuse the bomb. Wonder Woman, fly the invisible plane over. Aquaman, talk to some fish.
Talk to some fish.
I-
you know when they had that movie, they're like, we got to make Aquaman cool out with Jason Momoa. Got it. He doesn't even have to say anything.
Done. Yeah. He just has to stand there in the Aquaman costume. It's like,
And raise the one eyebrow.
I say this as a straight male. That man is gorgeous. Okay, that man is gorgeous. I
So
love this.
This is
beer.
from Paperback Brewing. Yeah, it's quite good. It's everything the black IPA, as I understand the black IPAs, should be. It's got a great bitterness, but it doesn't linger.
Every time you say black IPA, I feel like Will.i.am and Fergie are gonna pop out.
Okay, that's funny. That is very funny.
Let's
Dum.
get it started.
What do you think of the black IPA?
I think it's got some. I mean, all the characteristic IPA pieces, but also mixed with almost like some stout feel to it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you
It's
get
got a
almost
little of
a
that
coffee.
coffee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That.
That.
What he said.
That thing.
Yeah, no,
No, you
get a-
talk.
I mean, you do get a little of the coffee, but yeah, you get the hops and the a little bit of the bitter. Although it's not overly bitter, it's more bitter in the coffee way than it is.
Yes.
This
in a
is
hop way.
this is a fun take on the IPA. I've had black IPAs or dark IPAs before, but in an age where almost every IPA is hazy or juicy, it's fun to get something that's this different.
I've always been a big fan of Shiner Black, which is a black ale, but not an IPA. This to me, like, kind of takes that one step further. It gives you a little more of that IPA hoppiness, but still gets that coffee black ale vibe.
That Shiner was the Bohemian
Shiner.
Black Lager, by the way.
Bohemian Black Lager. Boy, that was good. I haven't had one of those in a long time. I used to. I remember, way back in the single days, I was I was
in
thinking
the
about
before time.
Yeah, I was thinking about going out with this girl, and I texted her and said, "Hey, what are you up to?" She goes, "I'm just kind of sitting around the house having a Shiner Black." I was like, "Okay, done. Will you go out with me this weekend?" So I was like, "Okay, anybody that's got that good a beer taste, I'm down."
Yeah.
But no, this is good. I would recommend this. This Paperback Brewing Company is from Glendale, California. So I know our listeners in California can find this. But this actually, my wife bought this at Kroger. So
Oh, nice.
and brought it home
So
to
it's
us.
coming in at 7.2%. So a little bigger than I thought, even on tasting. It doesn't come across
Yeah, it
very
doesn't.
boozy at all.
Yep.
You know, it just occurred to me, by the way, that IPAs and ryes go very well together. So I'm going to go back to my last little bit of this Midwinter Night's Dram, and oh yeah,
So I did this moments ago, and I thought the coffee interrupted the rye a little bit, but the finish between the two is very nice.
the finish is what I'm dwelling on the most. Yeah, for sure. I am absolutely digging that. I will tell you, I can't fault it at all. Okay, so we have a couple minutes left in this.
I would like to just say thank you, by the way, to Great Heights Brewing.
Oh, that's right. We haven't recognized Great Heights because they are our show beer sponsor for
I'm
the show.
drinking
this
the
week.
Crystal Beach. And
Yep.
if you live in this area, you know what that is, Crystal Beach.
Yeah.
You've been there.
I'm enjoying the Blue Tile IPA, which is their kind of standard IPA, and I think Terry, you're
enjoying
drinking
the
one of my
Fruity
absolute
pellets.
Yeah,
Fruity
one of my
pellets.
absolute favorite hazies, which is the Fruity Pellet. So these guys they're a great brewery, and we love Abby Heim, who's one of their reps who we have had on the show a number of
she
times.
was on just recently with her dad.
Right, her dad, Jim Heim, who is the proprietor of the famous Front Porch, where we like to go smoke cigars.
that's right.
And yeah, so and it was an interesting show because we got to evaluate the father-daughter dynamic. A few things I can tell you. If you missed the show, you should go and watch it. But I can summarize a few things. Both have great taste in beer.
Yes.
Both have great taste in spirits.
Yes.
She is definitely more into Taylor Swift than her father is.
Yes. She's a total Swiftie.
Yeah.
Now
So-
I just picture Jim sitting there listening to some Taylor Swift, driving down the road.
yeah, smoking a cigar on his front porch.
He's
No,
the
Jim.
reason for the teardrops on my guitar.
Yeah. Hey, listen, when you think Tim McGraw, I hope you think my favorite song. That's what I'm saying. So, but the player's going to play.
Is Taylor showing up? Like, I'm seeing a lot of people have their Spotify year-end thing that's coming up right
Oh,
now, and
yeah.
Taylor's showing up on a lot of my friends. One of my friends was just all Taylor, everything. First top 5, top 10, all Taylor Swift.
I saw the Jimmy Kimmel show the other night, and he was talking about his Spotify year-end list, and he said, "My number one was Taylor," and the audience is like, "Yeah!" All the Swifties in the audience. Yeah. He goes, "No, I'm sorry to disappoint. It was James Taylor." Apparently, he is a big James Taylor fan. So
That's hilarious.
So yeah, you guys should share your Spotify lists with us. Send them to st@rfcmedia.com, and we'll share them with the world. I'm sure you're proud of the fact that, you know, your number 1, 2, and 3 were great, but your number 4 was like, you know, the chick who did the Friday song or whatever. So, all right,
Rebecca Black.
we got to take thank you, Rebecca Black IPA. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back. We have more whiskey to taste. Drinking news is right around the corner, and we also have, I think, a really interesting stout coming up that is a chocolate churro stout from Aleworks.
Sounds delicious.
I like it. We'll be right back. It's Smoking Toast. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. Our show's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Going to get to another whiskey here momentarily, but wanted to share with you, I think we teased the story last week, but we didn't get to it. Stone Brewing, which despite the fact that they've been bought by Sapporo, still makes
They
some
were
awfully
they were
good
the
beers.
holdouts too, man.
Oh, they really
I
were.
felt a little betrayed when they did it, but at the same time, man, get your money.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. You gotta, you know, you
I
gotta.
don't hate on them for that part of it.
Right. By the way, speaking of which, It's a very interesting article. If you're in the Houston area, you can find it was in the Houston Chronicle recently about Carbach, which Carbach was
Yeah, I
our
saw that one.
local brewery here that basically was one of the.
I haven't seen this.
One of the breweries that was snatched up by Anheuser-Busch when they kind of did their "we're buying a whole bunch of craft" type of thing. And the article goes on to talk about how they've worked diligently to maintain local ties in the community, and it was a very interesting article because it was very pro Carbach, basically saying they sold but they didn't sell out. And we've talked about them a lot here because they're a brewery we were big fans of.
Yeah.
We're not as big of fans of them now. They do still make some very good beers. Love Street's a very, very good Kolsch.
Yeah.
But you'll find it interesting. So it's on chron.com, which is the Houston Chronicle website, and you can check it out. Just Google or just search.
That would be CHRON.
Search Carbach on there, and you'll find the article. But it's very interesting if you're interested in what. And I will give Carbach this. They have really put roots into the local community. They've tried really hard not to just become, Shock Top or Blue Moon, right?
Right.
And be a legitimate thing of their own. So give them huge credit for that. Anyway, Stone, these guys have been doing, super edgy IPAs and very interesting, Arrogant Bastard Ale, things like that for years. And they were sold to Sapporo. Stone is now pulling out of 50 international markets. They are only going to be available domestically.
Huh.
And so apparently it's a numbers decision, just the amount of money it's costing them to do this versus what the return is on it. And they
who
said
bought them?
Sapporo.
I'm wondering if now they're going to start going, okay, well, there might be a little too much hops in this here beer.
See, if I'm Sapporo and I'm an international company, I mean, they're based out of Japan, right?
Yeah.
So it would seem like the international thing would be a
Where
big
they
part
wanna
of what
go,
you
yeah.
wanted to do. Yeah. But
But
in this
the problem is a lot of these companies aren't interested in spreading fantastic beer. They're
Right.
interested
It's
in making
strictly-
money.
strictly a bottom line thing,
I
yeah.
do understand also that making money is business. Like you're not going to start a company that
To
doesn't
lose
make
money.
money and
Right.
continue it. Like that's given, okay?
Mhm.
But there's also a certain amount of love for what you do that makes you push and go, you know what?
Well-
I'll take a little bit less if it equals bringing this to more people, those kind of things.
Well, and when Greg Cook and Steve Wagner started Stone, it was that love that pushed
It
them
was
to
that
do
love,
this.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was what pushed them to make these beers that were at the time super radical.
Yeah.
There was
I
nothing on
remember
the market
finding
like it.
those and being just blown away because no one else was doing that.
And even when the rest of the craft beer industry kind of followed suit and started doing these extremely hoppy IPAs, they just didn't make
Theirs
them
are
as well
still
as Stone
better.
did. Yeah, they
More
were
balanced.
still better and more
More bitter,
balanced. Yep.
yet
Mhm.
better.
Yeah.
I'll always grab one in the San Francisco airport because they have their own outlet.
Like
Oh,
a
yeah,
Stone.
yeah.
Oh,
Stone.
yeah,
And-
yeah.
But I will say I'm intrigued because I would think that with the already built-in global distribution that Sapporo has, like you would
Right.
think it would be easier to
Right,
do it
just
and cheaper
it's
to
like,
do
hey,
it.
here's some American craft beer
Yeah.
you might like in Germany
Right.
or wherever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I
Yeah,
wonder
but-
if the
Or
extremity, the extremity of that particular beer is too much for some palates. I think
if I were visiting Tokyo
some markets. I mean,
and I walked into a bar and they had Stone Arrogant Bastard Ale on tap, I would freak out and stay there the rest of the night
right?
and spend all my money. I would be that happy. It would be like an oasis in the desert type of thing.
Yes.
I'm not saying I wouldn't enjoy Japan. I would go and eat some very authentic food, but I'd be drinking me some American craft beer.
You know,
Sure.
and oddly enough, you put enough wasabi on something, an IPA goes along with it pretty well. Speaking of which, my wife puts so much wasabi on
So
there. Like
I don't do
if,
wasabi. I love hot, but I don't
If
do
I
wasabi.
dip into her little wasabi thing, like my whole nose flares up. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, I don't do wasabi because for me it obscures the taste of the fish.
Yeah.
So, and I want to taste the fish. But that's just me.
The
Speaking of
super
taste,
weight tuna.
Dom has poured us another whiskey here, and I've already taken a sip, and I was like, "Whoa,
I have not, but the
What?
nose on this is crazy.
what are we dealing
till you
with
try
here?"
it.
The nose
Yeah,
on this
yeah.
is like brown sugar meets there's like almost a
dynamite?
cinnamon. There's almost a cinnamon note to it. There's an earthy note to it.
Well, there's a number of whiskeys that
vanilla.
I think are just wild, and this is probably up there in
Yes,
the weirdest
wild.
ones and most unique ones you would have.
Wow.
And so, like,
Oh, look at his face.
teed up by the
need-
last beer we drank.
This is easy to describe.
need
WTF.
Yeah. That's not what you were expecting.
So this
It's
is
smoky. It's
wild. It's
minerally,
it's Charbet from California.
Yeah.
And it's essentially, right, like in the distillation process, you make beer before you make whiskey, right? But this is actually distilled essentially from an IPA. So you can smell and taste all
so the
hoppiness.
distillate was a hoppy IPA,
Yeah.
and then they went on to
Turn it into
make
whiskey.
the whiskey out of it.
The smokiness is almost like a mezcal smokiness.
Mm-hmm.
I am absolutely in love with this.
It's the weirdest, wildest. I love it.
It's bizarre.
It's not one I think that you would go and grab every day, but like
Now-
occasionally you're like, holy smokes,
Now
this
that
is crazy.
now that you've said it's an IPA,
There's
and
a-
I took another sip. I get that now
Mhm.
where that comes from. The
Ian,
basis
can
of
you
it.
pour me a little? Is there any more of the black IPA left?
yes.
Can you pour me? I'd
There's
love
a-
to see
there's
what
a-
it's like to go back to
You
that.
know that.
after this.
You know that when rainwater hits hot pavement. You know that kind of smell that you get from it, the fresh.
That's my Native
Yeah.
American name.
This
Rainwater
has
hits
that.
hot pavement.
Yes.
It's absolutely crazy. It has that kind of freshly rained kind of thing in
Yeah,
the background.
And other friends of mine always say, man, it's like drinking weed. And I'm not.
There's a
that
little
partaker,
dankness
but-
to it like
Mhm.
that.
You know?
Yeah. There's a little dankness to it.
Yeah, it's different. It's wild and it's weird.
Every sip
love
I
it.
take,
Okay.
I like more.
You must pour yourself
There's
some.
almost a chocolatiness to it as well.
Yeah.
You must pour yourself some of this black IPA and go back to it because it absolutely obliterates the hops in the black IPA, and you just get kind of like a coffee. It almost winds up being like a coffee porter.
Oh.
Oh,
You see what I'm talking about?
yeah.
Like you don't get any of that hoppiness
There's
that
a
you got
bitter
before.
vanilla on the end of it
Yeah.
too that was not even noticeable before.
That's actually kind of lovely.
Whoa, that's wild.
And back to the Charbonnet.
Charbet.
Charbet.
Bay.
And this is
Sorry,
one.
Charbonnet was a stripper I knew once. So
It's released every
ladies and
so
gentlemen,
often.
please
They
welcome
sort
to
of
the stage Charbonnet.
do runs every now and then. So this is another one. You can get it. I had somebody order it from a place in California for me, but it's available-ish.
Wow.
It's really good, but wildly different.
Yeah.
Like if we'd have said, make sure you bring something really different, this would have been
It's
that
doing
thing.
inappropriate things to my palate.
Yeah.
I love it.
With or without your consent. All right, we got to take a break. Charbet. Wow. I never would have thought. I also never would have thought this, but drinking news is next. Yes, it's that time, ladies and gentlemen.
Egad.
Stand by. Nice. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And this week we're going to bring you the correct edition of Drinking News. This is the one we actually meant to do
Python edition.
last week, the Python edition. Yes, we meant to do this last week so it would match up with the headline, but we didn't. We kind of jumped ahead, and that's okay because this one was worth waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to start before
we
Ian's
just did
done pouring.
extra teasing on this
Yeah,
one.
I don't want to wait. I don't want to start until Ian is
enough.
ready.
I was supposed
Smart
to wait
enough.
until after the song to pour, but I got a little excited about
Dom,
it.
you remember your line?
You were supposed to.
Yes.
Okay.
Like we worked it out seconds before I did that, and I immediately forgot.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Drinking does not affect your short-term memory.
it's kind of like when the score is tied. There's 2 seconds left. The team is on the 5-yard line. The coach sends in a play, and the quarterback gets to the huddle and goes,
Wait a minute.
I forgot what he said. Let's just throw the ball. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Drinking News, as we have pointed out many times on this program, is the segment where we bring you a story from the news. It may or may not be, although it often is, about drinking, but it is always best enjoyed if you've been drinking. And fortunately, we fit that bill here on the program right now. In our ongoing effort to bring you each edition of Drinking News, we scour the web each week for oddities, stories, and reports of the crazy things that go on around the world, and for updates from Florida. Now, while it sometimes can take a while to find just the perfect story, I can assure you that there is no shortage of weirdness out there. With that in mind, before we get to our main story on this week's edition, I thought I would share with you just some of the headlines of stories that didn't quite make the cut for Drinking News.
I just want to point out that Charbet is outrageously good.
Mm-hmm.
But it does not go well with this stout.
No.
It's egregious.
I'm gonna palate cleanse here.
I would highly recommend it.
Mm-hmm. Some examples of some of the headlines of stories. These are real that did not quite make the cut for a full edition of Drinking News. King of tribe in Africa returns to his job as a gardener in Canada.
Well, now.
Woman who eats her hair has giant hairball removed from her stomach.
That's surprising.
Obese hedgehog is so fat he can't curl into a ball. Interesting story, but it wouldn't really make.
There's only so much you can do
news.
with that.
Yeah.
Although the visual on that is,
Frozen excrement dropped from plane crashes through house's roof. Or my personal favorite, typhoon rips through cemetery, hundreds dead. Again, these are real, actual headlines. But our main story today takes us to the Beaver State. I'm talking about Oregon, but because my sense of humor never made it out of junior high school, I like referring to it by its official state nickname. Yes, it's not another title of a really bad porn video. Oregon really is the Beaver State.
The Beaver State.
Google it.
It's like being in a beaver state of mind.
On second thought, don't Google it. At least not on your work computer. In any event, in the Beaver State city of Portland, Oregon, a man has been caught stealing from a very nice shop called A to Z Pets. I assume that's because they have everything from ants to zebras. I don't know. Now you might think that the man lifted a bag of dog treats or a fluffy mouse cat toy, but you'd be wrong. The man stole, of all things, a $200 python. We've been
That's an expensive python.
We've been unable to confirm that this was actually a visiting Florida man, but all signs seem to be pointing in that direction. When store manager
Kristen, the man out of Florida.
When store manager Kristen Boujan noticed the snake was missing from its normal spot, she immediately checked the CCTV footage from the security cameras.
Excuse me, sir. Is that a python in your pants?
And she caught the criminal in the act on the security camera.
Hey, look over there.
Tell me he's putting it in his pants.
What makes the story worthy of Drinking News was how the snake stealer attempted to accomplish his crime. The footage clearly showed the man lifting the black pastel ball python out of its glass tank and, wait for it, putting it down his pants.
Oh, yes!
We actually need to applause sound effect there. Yeah. Maybe the fanfare would
Can we
work.
get the fanfare real quick?
The fanfare.
Wait, let me just do it again.
All right, here we go.
And putting it down his pants.
Thank you. That was it.
The manager told Fox News 6 in Portland of the Beaver State that the theft might not have gone so smoothly if it had occurred on a Monday. Quoting the manager, he's lucky it wasn't Monday. Feeding days are on Monday, and they're very hungry, end quote. Police are still looking for the man and the snake, which is a bit harder now since the theft did not occur on Monday. If it had, they could simply look for a man matching the description from the video, walking with a very distinct limp, or maybe just curled up into a ball on the sidewalk outside of A to Z Pets in Portland.
The snake says, that's
of
just
the Beaver
nuts.
State.
What?
Now, as many of you know,
Good thing he wasn't hungry.
as many of you know, stories like this, while they make some people laugh and some people wonder what the hell is happening in our world, they often strike me a bit differently. Often I will find myself inspired by these stories, and when inspiration hits me, I must find a way to express myself. And invariably, I'll do that by writing a short poem or a verse of prose. And so, though I've been warned many times about the impact of sharing my creative thoughts, I'm once again going to do that for you now, if you please. Little poetry reading music, thank you. And it goes a little something like this. The theft of a snake took some guts, though the thief was a bit of a klutz. If he'd done it on Monday, we would no doubt hear him say, "Oh my God, something's biting Dee's nuts." Reporting live from A to Z Pets in Portland, a city in the Beaver State, where I swear I just heard someone say, "Is that a stolen pet in your pants, or are you just happy to see me?" My name is Cruz, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is your
Drinking news, drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. By the way, if you Google this story, you'll find out that I not only did not make it up, but there's actually video of the man putting the python in his pants, which is worth looking at. Yeah.
I'm going to get that python one way or another. I didn't say another. I said one way or another.
Or another. Yes. Yeah.
Another.
Because it happened.
That word starts with an apostrophe.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like Merca.
America.
Ian, you have poured one of the most regal bottles of Imperial
This is
Stout
beautiful.
I've
Look
ever
at
seen.
that. Barrel-aged Lost Prophet Chocolate Churro Edition.
Okay, so Lost Prophet is I think a yearly release, a yearly barrel-aged release from the folks at Alesmith Brewing, and they put it in basically a champagne bottle, which is awesome. You know, because so right away this raises expectations, I will say.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I'm assuming that this costs in the neighborhood of $30 to $40 for a single bottle.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I
Even
was
more?
thinking 50 on this one.
Mm-hmm.
It is gorgeous.
Terry's in the neighborhood.
In the neighborhood. Wow. Did we
There's
get all the way to
not a lot-
60?
There's not a lot on the nose, I have to say.
It's chocolatey on the nose.
No, there's
And
not.
it noses a little bit like a standard stout with a little bit of chocolate.
Right. What do you get when you
My
take a sip?
gosh, give it a sip. Because it is dark fruit, like dark cherry and date. And it is chocolatey. It's
chocolate in a way that it's a little bit like cocoa powder chocolate, more so than
it's a
like
gritty
a
kind of chocolate.
Yeah, it's a gritty kind, which I really like.
Tastes a little like those cherry
It's like
cordials.
if you have a malt and you get the little ball of malt that hasn't blended in. Yeah, it's like that.
You want to talk about mouthfeel, though, compared to the last one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
It has a pretty serious mouthfeel to it.
This is pretty big. If you think about like our mystery beverage, that Robinson's beer versus this, the Robinson's is a 1. And this is about a
Mouthfeel-wise.
15.
Yeah. Right. No, you're right. This is
mouthfeel wise.
This is very stout.
This tastes a little like those chocolate covered cherries.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's got that dark cherry with the bitter dark cherry kind of finish to it.
But I love the grittiness of the cocoa, and there's a little vanilla note in there too.
You know what? It's funny because you would almost expect this to have a little more coffee, and while it does have a hint of coffee, it's actually tamped down substantially by the cocoa.
Right. You're absolutely right. You start going, oh, there's the coffee, but then like that cocoa powder note sort of takes over on the finish. This is really good.
Can you imagine sitting and having a glass of this with some s'mores?
But there is zero chance you're drinking that whole bottle. This is like must be shared.
What does it? What does it say of the? What does it say of the ABV?
It's coming at 12.5.
Okay, yeah, so not much, just 12.5. Well, this is definitely one you open and share, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things. We like to do bottles like this from time to time on the show because,
I would drink this floating down the river.
of course, you would, and you drink the whole bottle floating down the river, and everybody'd be like, "Where's Ian?"
Yeah.
I would even keep going around the river.
I would pour this directly into my Camelback.
Where's he? He's floated all the way down to Mexico somewhere.
But the reality is, bottles like this were made to be shared, and
Yes,
because
yes.
they are as expensive as they are, it's one of the reasons that we like to, delve into these every once in a while and say, is this worth it?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a $50 bottle.
This
is
is
it worth it?
amazing.
I mean, to me, if you're having the right friends over and you're having the right occasion, yeah, it is worth it.
All
Is
right,
this
listen,
worth
if
it to have while you're doing the dishes? Probably not.
If
you
you
know?
go buy a bottle of Veuve Clos,
right.
it's going to be $50, $40,
bless you.
$50. Right? Like, instantaneously, it's going to be that. Like
But
for
you know what
this
you're getting.
exact size bottle, I'm talking about not the small bottles, right? So like how much different is that from buying this and having it as a celebratory drink,
Right.
a special occasion drink where we sit around and we talk about it, like like New Year's party style.
We
or
get
something
into
like
this
that.
a lot, but the community of all of this is, to me, one of its biggest selling points. Like it's like if I buy this bottle, it's going to sit unopened in my beer fridge or in my beer storage until such time as you come over or Dom comes over or
Yes.
I don't usually invite Terry over, but
can always-
something like that. And you go, okay, let's have
Terry
a special
shows up.
evening.
Yeah.
Terry shows up unannounced. The concierge calls me and goes, "There's a Terry here."
He says he
And I'm
knows
like,
you.
I don't know any
Says he-
Terry.
I don't know him.
But no, that's what it's about. It's about the community. It's about sharing this and talking about it and lighting a cigar and smoking. Man, this would go with a cigar so
I
well.
love that it just stains the cup brown.
All right, we got to take a break. We got one more whiskey to try. We're going to do it in our final segment. I'm very excited about it. And our guest, of
Ooh, I bet
course,
that whiskey's going to go well with this.
Dominic Sung from the Whiskey Social. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And when you're talking about the beers and the spirits, this has been an above-average show, I think.
So starting with the
Gose?
903 Jelly Donut Gose. I mean, the nose on that is so outrageously good.
And then the Dollar Store Heroes Black IPA. And then we just opened the Alesmith Brewing Company's Barrel Aged Lost Prophet, the Chocolate Churro Edition, which is living up to its name. But in addition to that, Dom's brought some whiskeys that just have slayed. The Midsummer Night's
Charbet
Dram, the Charbet.
It's so bizarre.
And now he's brought one that does what I think is almost impossible, which is it's actually, looking at the bottle, it's actually made Jack Daniels look cool.
Hey, this is one of the ones, Jack Daniels, great release.
This ain't no old
Listen,
number 7 here.
Listen, old number 7 is not something I ever reach for. I guess if you're doing a Jack and Coke, that's what you got to have because, Jack and Coke. Otherwise, they'd call it something else in Coke. But but frankly, like, while that one is not my favorite, everything else they make is brilliant.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
their
true.
whole line is absolutely
true.
brilliant. They're so
And
good.
I've already nosed this, and I can tell this is going to be brilliant as well. I'm getting major bubble gum on the nose.
Beware the proof. I'm just going to say that first.
Yeah, you can get a little bit of that on the nose, too.
This is a 2020 limited. So every year they release a heritage barrel, in their words. And so this was the one from 2020. It's a barrel proof rye.
This is such a chocolatey rye.
Wow, it
chocolatey,
really is.
spicy.
And is that because we're coming off of this beer? This
I don't know.
Imperial
It's a good
Stout?
question.
Are you not getting? I get chocolate all day on that.
Mm-hmm. But I got
Yeah,
it on
it's
the
there.
beer, too.
It's there.
Now when I go back to the beer, I get more coffee.
But this one was met with such adoration that they have now made it a regular release. So this particular bottle is the limited release.
Is this an expensive bottle?
It's coming in at
No, not too bad.
132.2
Yes,
proof. That
be
we're
careful.
Oh, my God.
It
no
does not
wonder.
drink it either.
At that point, you
says
don't need
beware
the
the
point
proof,
two.
right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
The regular release is, I want to say it's probably like 60 to 70, somewhere in there. So so not horrifically blow you away.
But at that price, this is exceptional.
The only thing that I have on my shelf that's even close to this proof, and it's 132 proof, I think, is I have a barrel rum. That's outrageous.
Oh yeah,
like that.
yeah. That almost isn't a rum. It's so high in proof. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a rum that drinks more like a high proof whiskey,
Yes,
rather than having that
Yes.
sort of gentle rum cask flavor to it.
Yeah.
But yes, I know what you're talking about. This is really exceptional, and I just want to point out that because we got to spend a little more time talking about this. We have not, when we're not going to get to the article that was about the title of the show was about, which was the best and worst celebrity booze. We just don't have time to get to it. And I know what you're saying. You're saying,
all right, hold on. Let me wrap this up. Heaven's Door, good. Proper 12. Bad.
Here's my
okay,
question.
thank you. Now we've
covered
successfully
You've
covered it.
covered that, and if you want to expand on the conversation, is Proper 12 still a celebrity whiskey if they have cut ties with Conor McGregor, or is it just a bad whiskey now?
That's actually a good point, and I think we're gonna have to think about that and get back to you. But it's
or is
really,
it just a bad whiskey?
But I know what you're saying. You're saying
Next week on the show, Proper 12. No, I'm just joking.
I know what you're saying. You're saying, wait a minute, you had time to get to the guy who put a snake in his pants, but you didn't have time to get to the celebrity best and worst celebrity booze. Pretty much, yeah.
Much like the song
Priorities.
Baba O'Reilly, the name and the lyrics don't always have to.
That's
Hey, can you
don't
play
always have to
Teenage Wasteland?
coincide.
yeah. The drapes do not always match the curtains. That's just the way that life is, right?
Wait, do the curtains match the pubes?
Can you say pubes on the? Yeah, I think you can.
It's just linoleum
I think
now.
so.
Linoleum.
I guess we're gonna find out.
See, this is what happens when you get to the last segment of the show.
So
almost
this,
there,
and you're
This
drinking
whiskey is so good.
Jack Daniel's single barrel special release Tennessee whiskey, and is this okay? So
I will tell you. So you said okay.
They did
So
an
this was
amazing
the,
job with
barrel
Rise.
this
proof
was the
rye.
2019. You said
2020.
2020. I see it right there on the dongle.
he said,
Dongle.
Neck tag, dongle, whatever you want.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Right now, our radio
if-
affiliates are like standing by on the dump button mute. Yeah.
If the new versions of this are even half this good, it's worth every bit of it.
Yeah, and I
This
think
is
the new
so
versions
good.
are, I would say, in my mind, like 70 to 80% of this.
This is-
so they're a
'cause
little
this
bit
is
younger. But
outrageous.
yeah, they do an amazing job with Rise.
Yeah.
And like I said, this got so much like positivity from this. You're like, why aren't you doing this in a regular release? And
Yeah.
here they are with it.
So, Dom, I know we've only got a minute
Yeah.
left, which is about par for the course. But tell us what your take was on the Whiskey Social this year. Now that you guys are past it and it's in the history books, what how'd you feel about it?
I think hopefully everybody had a great time. We intentionally
I know we did.
Yes.
Thank you. We intentionally did a few things to keep the flow moving better, to get the spacing a little bit better. And every year we try to tweak all the things to continue to try to make the experience
The
good for
spacing
everybody.
was better. You did good. I mean, I noticed it didn't seem as packed as it was last time. And Alan Denny wore a nice outfit. That was also a plus.
That was definitely an upgrade from the previous year.
I love that.
And I would say,
on
speaking
the
of
serious side,
upgrade-
the bathroom lines were almost non-existent. There was like
Right.
few people you were
Yeah.
waiting in line. That was about it.
And by the way, I really liked what you did with the smoking lounge outside, where you hung that smoking and toasting lighted
That
sign.
was pretty amazing.
That was really cool. We loved and appreciated
pretty
that.
We appreciate you guys being out there.
It was a big fun, and of course, it was a blast interviewing Graham McTavish. We did that interview a little bit earlier
And Cigar
in the
Town
show.
crushed it.
Yes,
on the
they
Cigar
absolutely,
They're always
they
amazing to have
absolutely
out there.
did. Yeah,
So
they were-
Daniel was awesome.
So we will just say this again. We've said it a number of times on this program. We even said this back when Chris Hart was doing the social, and that was that we feel like this is the best spirits event
The best.
that we have been to, and we've been to a lot of them in a lot of different places. So
It's the best run. If there's anything you want to complain about, go talk to one of the guys.
right.
Don't expect it to change today, but you know what? They do pay attention.
Yeah.
and like every year it gets better, it gets smoother.
So this is the number one. Number two would be that time Ian came over to my house.
That was a pretty good whiskey. That was a pretty good whiskey event.
That was a pretty good event. We sampled a lot of good stuff. Folks, this is one of those shows that I wish we had another 5 segments because it just feels like we have so much more to talk about. But Dominic Stone, thank you so much for being on the program.
Always happy to be here.
We love having you on. We love the whiskeys that you brought. And this Jack Daniel's single barrel, this is outrageous. This rye is something special. And thank you. We've had a lot of somethings special on the program today, and we'd like to thank you for being here and being a part of it. Next week's show is our pipe show.
The Pipe Show.
We are going to be
at Winston's Cigar Lounge, formerly known as the Briar Shop.
Yep. And they still have a lot of pipe enthusiasts who work there, so we'll be talking to them about smoking pipes.
I know it changed names and things like that, but basically it's the same place. The same people are still running it.
And
they apparently got a partner that came in.
And maybe the cigar selection is even better, right?
The cigar selection is substantially better than it was.
Yeah.
The pipe selection, the pipe tobacco is still there. And they're still getting in more stuff too. So they got an infusion of capital, I believe, with this with changing over to Winston's.
And super excited about being there.
The place has a great vibe. They've rearranged the furniture a little bit. It's nice.
Super excited about being there and smoking pipes with you, my friend. Have a great Dominic. Thank you very much to all of you guys out there, and to Adam, my producer in the sky. Thank you, and have a wonderful week. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.
Where she goes, no one knows.